The life of a lawyer is not simple or easy. The absence of collegiality will compound your life. Collegiality is practicing law in a spirit of civility and respect. Lawyers who disagree but use disagreements constructively. That's a good point. We have to learn, unlike our political brethren, or the people that we argue politics with, whether we're red or blue, we need to learn as lawyers to be able to separate ourselves from the personality contained within the disagreement. That's extremely difficult because many times if you're a good advocate, you adopt your client's position and you fervently believe in that position, and as a result you will invest yourself in that position, and you end up confusing the disagreement with the personalities involved. It's something that lawyers face on a day-to-day basis. Collegial practice results in disagreements that are effective, not vindictive or personal. Determine what is worth fighting about and concede everything else. I recommend everybody sit for 10 years on the bench, okay? It made me the best lawyer I ever was. It made me a better lawyer than I've ever been. And because I saw so much, it was a general jurisdiction district court in East Texas, and I saw everything across the board. Prior to that, I was board certified in family law, civil trial, and personal injury, and that's all I did. Family law when I was stupid enough to do it early in my career, and civil trial and personal injury when I was fortunate enough to develop that practice, okay? So, and I don't mean that in a degrading way against family lawyers, it's just a very difficult practice. But sitting on the bench, what you're able to see is that many of these fights are so unnecessary. And the first question is, the first thing you need to learn as a lawyer is you need to fight smart. You need to fight with conviction, passion, perseverance, and to win. And if it's not worth fighting, concede it. In other words, we fight on too many things. I can't tell you how many times if you just sit in a courtroom and you listen to a lawyer, you'll say, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Those lawyers standing up there. I'm seeing lawyers say yes. Most issues are not worth the fight. Disagreements on scheduling, continuances, deadlines, and discovery are 99% not worth the fight. All of us now in the day of emails can fire off a hot letter, pick up a phone and cuss somebody out with a tone that you shouldn't use, and you later have to apologize to on opposing counsel. You can allow yourself to run away with your emotions. I've done it since I've been on the practice, back into practice, and I've had to apologize for it or really just say I regret that conversation. And I know other lawyers in this room do it too. President Truman's daughter used to play piano, and there's a great story about him. There'd be reviews of her piano playing, and he'd get out and write a hot letter to the reviewer that, you know, that you don't know what you're doing, you're tone deaf, my daughter plays great, you're just an idiot. And he'd take the letter, put it in the drawer, and forget about it. I think that's what you need to do. And Thomas Jefferson said, when angry, count to 10 before you speak, and if very angry, count to 100. My rule with most issues are not worth fighting for is grant the request for grace. Avoid being in the position of needing grace. I can't tell you how important that is. Granting the request for grace simply means that when somebody comes to you with a worthwhile proposition, even though it may discombobulate you somewhat, grant it. But don't ever be in a position of having to ask for grace. Now, what does it mean that don't being in a position of not having to ask for grace? Simply means that you're in a position that you maintain your practice, that you keep up with your calendar, that you hit your scheduling, that your staff is educated, that you have ticklers with regard to response dates, and you're in a position where you don't have to ask for grace. Fair enough? So my rule is grant the request for grace from lawyers, but avoid being in the position of needing grace. Now, I want to tell you a little story when I was on the bench. I was at the Advanced Personal Injury Seminar, and I had 3 counties, Anderson County, and Houston County. So I'm at the Advanced Personal Injury Seminar, and one of the Houston County lawyers comes up to me. It's a great case. It was a great personal injury case. Told me the facts. He says, and he mentioned the lawyer's name from Tyler. He says, you know, this guy, says, I got the case set. Says he tells me he's not going to be able to go to trial because he's got a prepaid vacation with his family to go to Hawaii. And he says, my case is more important than that. He says, my case is more important than that. I'm going to go to trial. He says, Judge, don't you agree? And I said, listen, let me tell you something. I'm going to use the vernacular here. I said, there's a saying in East Texas, don't piss off the alligator till you get out the ditch. So my recommendation to you is that you just grant him his grace and go ahead and pass the case. We can reset it. He said, no, I'm not going to do this. This case is too good. I'm ready to go. I got my experts lined up. So next day, lawyer from Tyler comes up to me. He says, Judge, I don't know if you know that. I know you practiced before that lawyer down there. I am really upset with him. He says, I've prepaid a vacation. I've got my family dedicated to go. We're all going. I'm trying to get the case settled. He says, but I'd be damned if I'm going to get it settled now. Okay? What did he do? He made the alligator mad, didn't he? They go down there and try it before another sitting judge when he shared the bench, and the plaintiff's lawyer gets poured out. So all of a sudden, what is he having to do? He's having to seek grace. Instead of granting grace and avoiding a situation and probably getting a good settlement for his client, he took a hard-headed attitude, made the guy mad, and ends up having to seek grace because the lawyer was so mad he dedicated himself to defeating him. Put every living moment into it to killing the guy. And he did. The district judge who was sitting there was smart enough to know what was going on, granted a new trial, and the case properly settled. So my response to you is, whenever somebody appropriately asks for grace, grant it, but avoid being in a position of needing grace.